Hi all, welcome to ESI Cloud Trainings. My name is Shalini Neralla. Let's get started with Boomi Atomsphere Basic Training Day 12 session. The agenda plan for today is we'll discuss about cleanse shape, find changes shape, process route shape and document cache shape. So we'll see how data is sent to document cache and how we'll retrieve data out of it. Right? So let's get started. So now let's create a folder day 12 and create a process. So let's start with one scenario where you've got the flat file from source and you'll have to transform into XML file and send it to the target. Okay, so now let my source be disk here. So I'll take a disk connector and action get. So connect, use the connection. Instead I'll create a new one. Okay, so if I go here, I have cleanse demo file. I'll copy this path and I'll paste it here. Okay, so this is done. Let's create the operation as well. I'll name this as cleanse disk connector operation. Close. So convert, create a new map and I'll name. Okay, create a new profile. I'll employee cleanse flat file profile. Import this. So say comma delimit, import it, delimited here. So from cleanse demo file, and you'll see the profile been created, XML profile which already exists. So under day 5 I have contacts XML. So let's reuse this. I'll map some fields, random fields. Okay, so make state, right? So okay, now okay, so instead of target I'll just place stop here and say okay. So let's execute this process, save and see the data here. You'll be able to see the mapping done from flat file to XML. But now say some restrictions. So he have given some restrictions on your source profile. So let's say that, and also say on some field we have field length validation. So say min length should be 8 and max length should be 10. So some kind of field length validation meet this requirement. So now if I go here and if I open this particular file, so see now this has been opened and say because employee ID is mandatory field, right? I've removed this mandatory field from here. Okay, so I've removed this mandatory field. Now if say I executed this process now, so let's see what had happened. Employee ID is a mandatory field and it's not coming from source. In that case, what had happened? Your process has failed. Your process has failed with invalid data element, mandatory element empty. So your complete process halts there. And in order to overcome this, we have two options to go with try catch, where you can send the document to catch block without your process to fail. But what Boomi also provides as an option is a cleanse shape. You can reject the document or you can repair it. So we'll see that how now. So I've taken the cleanse shape. I'll select the profile type as flat file and I'll cleanse data using the profile. So we have created that day 12. So this is our profile. Now if you see here the profile tree, it tells you the restrictions that are there. See here, this element is mandatory. So if you see here, if it is empty, if the value is empty from source, then no repair, reject the document. Either you can reject the document or set a default value. By setting a default value, you can repair the document. So without letting the document to fail, you can set some default value by your own, right? So that this way you can either repair or reject the document. And now for state, if you see, we have set minimum and maximum length validations, right? So you'll be able to see here, if the data is too short, reject the document, or you can prepend character to pad length, or you can append character to pad length, right? Even here this element has maximum length restriction. So here you can see if it is too long, trim leading characters or trim trailing characters. So like this, you can either repair or reject the document. Now, for example, employee ID, I've given this and I've set a default value. So it is not coming from source. So I've set the value 101 here. Okay. So to cleanse, I'll have to send each document, right? So I have to send each document to cleanse shapes. So I will use data process here. I'll have to split the document. Data process. So use split documents. So flat file split by line, return first line as column headers. And I'll name this as split documents. Split documents. So this I'll place next to disk and cleanse. So add or rejected data to the map shape. So this is done. Now if I execute this particular process, see here, this is executed. Now if I see the data here, if I see the first document, see here, company 101. So though this is not coming from source, we have given 101. So if you see here, this is the data going into cleanse shape. See here, we don't have employee ID. So this way you can repair the document. Now for example, I want to reject it. So I'll go here, click on employee ID. So I will reject this document. So I'll click here reject. So now let's save and execute. See here, the document got rejected. So if you see here the document, you'll be able to see the rejected document here. See, this is the rejected document. Now if you want to get the error message, similarly for try catch have we got the message, if you want to get that, you can put a message shape here. So I'll say the error message is, and go to document property, go here. So metadata under base, we have cleanse result message. So I'll give cleanse result message. Okay, so let's now execute this. So the cleanse shape enables you to validate document field values and either repair or reject the document before further processing. Right? The cleanse shape uses a profile to determine which restrictions to validate. The restrictions are defined in the profile at the field level. The restrictions defined on repeating or detail level elements are automatically performed for each instance. The available restrictions differ slightly between different types of profiles, but they include mandatory check, minimum and maximum length checks, date and numeric data type, and formatting checks. Right? For each element, you can configure how to handle each restriction violation, either reject the document or repair the value. The repair options vary based on the type of restriction. It is important to understand that the entire document will be rejected immediately upon first violation. Subsequent restrictions are not violated. If integration scenario has single batch file, then you will need to split and then send. Right? So now if I see the message here, see here, it gives me the message. So it says employee ID mandatory element is missing. Right? So that's about cleansed shape. And remember one thing, that your rejected path is executed before to your clean path, right? So if there are any rejected documents, you can also stop the flow here itself. So if you want me to show that with an example, let me remove this stop shape here, or instead of removing this, I'll say I'll uncheck this. So end and return. Okay, let's execute this. So documents are cleansed and then passed down one of the two types, clean or rejected, to be processed accordingly. So rejected documents are processed before clean documents. This allows you to halt the entire process using a stop or exception shape if a single document is rejected, right? So if you see here, your clean path has not been executed. It got stopped in the rejected path itself, right? So this is about cleansed shape, right? So now let's start with fine changes shape. So let's go back, close this, and let's create a new process under date12 folder. Let's create a new process, and I'll name this as fine changes shape usage. Okay, so create. Let's start this with no data again. And now say you've got one scenario. From source you will get a file daily. Okay, so if there is any changes to that particular document that is coming from source, it have to go to update path, and there is some logic over there. Okay, if there is any deletions on that file, so it have to go to delete path, and it has some other logic to be executed, right? And if there are any additions, then it have to go to add path. So if there is any addition or updation or deletion to the document, there have to be different logics to be executed, right? So you have to have a component that distinguishes if for the file whether there are adds or updates or deletes, right? So now let's see what we'll do. So I'll again take disk connector. So now I'm getting the file from disk, and let me again create a connection. Okay, so remember we have to reuse the connections, but now because I'll not deploy this, I am using new connection each time. Okay, so find changes demo file. I'll copy this, paste it here, save and close. Okay, so this is now done, and create an operation and name this find changes. Okay, save and close. So just say okay, and this is now done. We have got the file. So what Boomi provides us is something called fine changes shape, right? So I'll place fine changes shape here, and I'll take the profile. So the document type can be flat file, database, XML. I'll take flat file document type, and I'll select the profile. So I'll select employee cleanse flat file profile, and key columns. So based on which key column you want to map, I'll say employee ID. Okay, so just click on OK, and let me place three different paths here. We have add, update, delete. So I'll just place a stop shape here. So just place a stop shape, copy. So just to see which path to it is going. Okay, so clear, and let's save this, right? So now let's see this first time when you've executed this. So this is executed. So for the first time when you execute, it will go to add path. Okay, so now let me, without any changes, execute this again. Okay, without any changes, I've just executed. So it stops here because there are no updations or changes to the document. So now if I go to the file here, so let's open this file. This is open. So now say I've updated the last row here. I'll say USA. Okay, I've just updated this. So let's execute. So remember, we are comparing the whole document, so we don't split the document here. We'll send the document as a whole. See, now it has gone to update path. It has gone to update path. So because there are updations, it has gone to update. And now if I go back to the file, and let's say I have deleted this row completely. I've deleted this row completely. Okay, I've deleted this completely. So now if I execute this, here it has gone to delete path, right? So this way find changes component identifies if there are any additions or updations or deletions to your document, right? So the find changes shape provides a way for a process to track changes made to a document and to send the document results down an add, update or delete path, right? This shape passes each line at a time and forward results down the appropriate path. The first execution of a process within this shape sends all results down the add path, and subsequent execution uses this first document as the basis for comparison, and adds or update data is stored per execution. Right? If a document reaching this shape does not contain a full capture of your desired comparison set, the process assumes that the missing record should be deleted. Right? So now you might get a doubt how this is actually comparing, how Boomi is getting to know whether it is added or updated or deleted. So what happens here is, if I go here into my Boomi installation directory, atom installation directory, I have something called work folder. Under work I have CDC, right? So if I open this text document, see here, this particular data, the document gets stored here in this path, and each time the document is compared against this and goes to the respective path. So the latest document that you are sending will be stored here, and that will be compared against to it. So if you are using a local atom and you are testing the fine change shape in a process, you need to reset the shape before deploying the process to production. Right? So to reset the fine changes within a specific process, delete this process file that has been created. Right? So that's about the fine changes shape. So now let's close this, and now let's see process route shape. Right? So I'll create a new component and I'll name this as process route shape usage. Right? So let's say create and start this with no data. Okay, so this is created. So say you have a scenario where you have two different subprocesses, and based on the field value of the document, the subprocess have to be executed, right? So the document have to go to that specific subprocess, right? So let's go to disk. Let's take disk here and create the connection. So now I'll go here. If I go to again C drive, then Boomi basic training. So here I have process route demo file. So say now if I open this particular file, see here, based on see this employee ABC belongs to ESI Bangalore, DF belongs to ESI Bangalore, and MNO belongs to ESI Hyderabad, and PQR also belongs to ESI Hyderabad. So we have two different sub processes. ESI Bangalore has one particular sub process, and ESI Hyderabad has one particular sub process. Right? So based on this value, the sub process have to get, the document have to go to that sub process. Right? So let me give this particular path. So this is given. I'll call this process. Okay. So just save and close this, and let me create the operation. So this is also done. So how do you think we can do this? So I have two different subprocesses. So let me first create the subprocesses here. I have a new component, I'll say, and I'll call this as ESI Bangalore subprocess. So I'll give data pass through because data have to pass through this. I'll give data pass through here, and I'll give a message shape, and I'll just print something. So this employee belongs to ESI Bangalore office. ESI Bangalore office. Okay. So now let's say stop. Okay, instead of stop, I'll say return documents, and say this is a success return. And now, for example, if there is any failure, I'll place a try catch shape here and say all errors, and I'll give a message shape here, and I'll just print saying there is an error. There is an error in this ESI Bangalore subprocess, right? And I'll say return documents. This will be failure. Okay, so this is now done, right? So now let's save and close this. So let me save this. I will now copy this process again. Instead of creating a new process for ESI Hyderabad, I'll copy the same here, and I'll now change this. So I'll call this ESI Hyderabad subprocess. Right, so this is done. I'll say this employee belongs to ESI Hyderabad office. Okay, this is from ESI Hyderabad subprocess. This is now done. Okay, save and close. So now what I can do, I have to I have to send the document based on the value of the company name, right? So what option I have here? Route. So I'll say route by profile element. I'll say flat file profile. So based on company name, I have to route, and route values. If it is equal to ESI Bangalore, go to ESI Bangalore, and if it is equal to ESI Hyderabad, go to ESI Hyderabad subprocess, right? So this values I've given, and I'll call the subprocess here. So I'll say process call and call that subprocess. Let's say Bangalore subprocess. Process call ESI Hyderabad subprocess. So like this I can do, and I can deploy the process, correct? This is what we usually do. But now think of few scenarios here. So say now in ESI Bangalore subprocess, I have some few modifications or for a few enhancements that have come up. So I have to make changes in ESI Bangalore subprocess. So what I'll have to do, I will open the subprocess, do the changes, and while deploying, I need to deploy the complete process, correct? And think of this scenario where you are working on Bangalore sub process and another person is working on Hyderabad sub process. So without you knowing that other person is working on the other sub process, you made your changes and deployed into production. So what will it result in? Without proper changes, the complete process have gone into production, resulting in errors, right? So if you'll also have to test it, so you have done a small change in Bangalore sub process, correct? But your testing effort includes testing for all the sub processes, correct? And think of another scenario wherein your a new company have been added again, say ESI Vizag have been added, two other employees have added with ESI Vizag. Say now I've got two other employees here. Okay, so like this, I'll just modify this. XYZ LM. So I'll say ESI Vizag. Say Vizag. So I've got two entries like this. So what should happen? I've not right now not saved. So let's execute first and later we'll save this. For now, ESI Vizag I've just given here, but I've not saved this. Later I'll save. Okay. So now ESI Vizag I've got two entries. So what I have to do here, I have to create a new sub process. And again, your testing effort includes testing for all your sub processes, correct? And other important thing is you'll have to deploy this particular main process again, correct? So which is doesn't seems to be correct, right? Because you have to advance a process, your testing effort includes all this, and you go and deploy the main process, right? So what Boomi provides as an option here is you can create your own process. You can deploy your own process without disturbing the main process and other sub processes, right? So this looks good, right? So if you are modifying a sub process, you can only go and deploy that particular sub process without modifying any other sub process. If you're adding any new enhancement, any new process, you can only go and deploy that particular sub process without modifying the existing processes, right? So now we'll see that with an example here. So let me remove all this. This is not needed. So what Boomi provides us is something called process route for us to choose the sub processes at runtime, right? So we have route by process route and processing group. So we'll discuss about processing group. So let's now say route by process route. Okay, and create the process route component. So process route itself is a component, so you'll go and create it. So I'll name this employee process route. And see here, process route components are deployable components used to execute sub processes dynamically from within a process based on a reference that is set at the runtime, right? So and pass through, right? And path name, add a return path. So say I have two return paths, success and failure, right? I'll add that paths here, success, failure. Okay, and process routing here. So I can give the keys. So here you'll define. So process routing uses keys to determine which process should be called and how to map the written document shape in that process to the process route's return path, right? So now route key. So route key, I'm saying ESI Bangalore. If it has ESI Bangalore in the document, then send it to this particular ESI Bangalore subprocess. And written documents, I'll mapping success to success and failure to failure. Okay. Now again, I'll say ESI Hyderabad and route to process ESI Hyderabad. And again map your return paths, success to success, failure to failure. So now save and close this, right? So now we have given ESI Bangalore, ESI Hyderabad, but based on which element, which field you need to define that, right? So go to route parameters here and say profile element, flat file, and select your company name. So based on company name, right? Mapping does, so you'll have to go here and you'll have to split and send the data. So use data process for splitting. So I'll name this split documents. So say split flat file 0 split by line, written first line as column headers. So this is done. So here, okay, I'll place written documents here, so I'll be able to see the data coming in process reporting page. So I'll say success here. So I'm placing written documents, so I'll be able to see the document in process reporting page. Failure. And say stop here. Right. So this is now done. So we have created a main process and we are routing the sub processes based on the process route. Right. So now what am I going to do? I have my main process and sub processes created. So I'll go to deploy page. So go to deploy page. And now if I go here, I'll deploy all these sub processes independently. So deploy this. And deploy this. ESA Hyderabad sub process. And deploy the main process as well. Now we have deployed all the processes. So deployment attempted to deploy one more standard connector. So disk we have used, right? So attempted to deploy one more. Let's see which one is using the licenses. So here our day 11 is deployed, so I'll undeploy this. So then I'll now deploy this process route. So now we have deployed all the main and sub processes. I'll also go and deploy process route. So process route is also a component, right? So I'll go and deploy this independently again. So this is now deployed. Okay. So done. Now if I go to atom management page here, I'll execute this particular process route shape usage. Let's see this process reporting page. So see here this is executed, and if I see the data here, written documents, here you'll be able to see the data. So just give some time. So now if I see the data here, I'll be able to see 4 documents. So you'll see This employee belongs to ESI Bangalore office. And here Bangalore office. And this should be from Hyderabad. Right? Hyderabad. So this way at runtime you're selecting the sub process. So now I'll go here and say to my ESI Bangalore sub process, I need to make few enhancements, okay, or few changes. So let me just give here saying that this sub process is being updated. So just something that this has been updated, okay. So now in normally if it's not process route, I'll have to deploy the complete process, right? But now what I can do is I'll only go and deploy ESI Bangalore process. So if I now deploy, I'll redeploy this. Okay, so I've redeployed this and let's execute this main process. So see here, this has got executed. And now if I see the data here, I'll be able to see 4 documents. And now I should see the modified one. So we are looking in the last version. So this is the new one. Now if I see here, so see now this process is being updated, right? So this way you can independently deploy the sub process. And now as we discussed here, if there is another process been added, ESI Vizag has been added, a new enhancement, right? So I've saved this now. So this is saved. And if I go back here and let me create it. So copy, copy this. I'll just modify the changes. Yes, Vizag sub process. And I'll give here this employee is from ESI Vizag. Okay, so this is done. Save and close. And what am I going to do? I'm not going to change any of the main processes or anything, but I'll go to process route here, right? And I'll just define another key. I'll say ESI Vizag and then route to the process ESI Vizag sub process. Success to success, failure to failure. Okay, now this is done. Now I'll go here and I'll deploy the newly created sub process and also redeploy the process route component. So now ESI Vizag sub process deployments, deploy latest division. And also the process route component. So I'll redeploy this. Okay. So this is now done. Now if I go and execute this, so let me refresh this as well. So now if I execute this, you should now see 6 documents, right? See here, 6 written documents and the last 3. Here this employee is from ESI Vizag. So this is the usage of process route shape, right? So the process route allows you to dynamically choose a sub process to execute at runtime based upon some document value. It reduces configuration and maintenance efforts when building processes that must handle many different types of documents and different execution paths. So this can be one interview question. What makes process route different from process call? Right? So the ability to dynamically determine which subprocess to execute based on some runtime criteria is one, and ability to deploy the main and subprocesses independently is the other one. So this is very important concept, and many questions will come across a process route component, right? And processes that contain process route component cannot be published to process libraries, cannot be made available to managed account as part of an integration pack, and cannot be deployed as a unit via the APIs, right? And now we have seen route by process route, right? There is also something called processing group here, right? So processing group, if I create a new one, see here, it allows you to route based on partners and documents. The processing group allows you to define and modify a related collection of trading partners that you plan to use together in your processes. By defining a processing group and specifying it in a process, only the processing group will need to be redeployed for any future changes to take effect, rather than the need to redeploy the entire process. So similarly, like how we've deployed process routes here, so we have deployed process routes, right? Similarly, we can deploy processing groups independently without making any changes. So if I select partners here, I can select the root and the partners, the trading partners that you create here, add trading partner. And if you select documents, you can go through the documents. You can give the standard document types here, right? And if you want no roots defined, so like this, we can use processing groups as well, right? So now we have seen this processing route by process route and processing group. So process route, if it calls a pass through process, then it sends the data and it is grouped by the route key, right? If it is not a pass through, then individually processes each document, right? If it is a processing group, it must call a pass through process. Incoming documents are grouped by either partners or documents. If all trading partners use the same standard structure, then the routes should be structured on documents, right? If few documents that do not use the standard format could call a different process, then they should be structured on partners. When the route is structured on partner, individual trading partners can be set to use their own processes, and individual document standards and document types can be set to use other processes instead of default, right? So that is about processing group. So as we've discussed now here, structures on partners and documents, right? So this is important. And understanding the behavior here, documents will be routed to a single path only. Duplicates and wildcard keys are not allowed. So documents cannot match to multiple paths. Documents are first grouped together by route key, and then each group is sent to respective subprocesses, right? And return path is executed in a sequence and as defined, right? So that's about a process route shape, right? So now let's start with document cache usage. So let me create a new process again, and I'll call this as document cache shape usage. So let's say create, and let's start this with no data. Okay. So say now I have this kind of scenario. Okay. So let me go here, basic training, document cache demo files. So say I have this XML file coming from source. Okay. So I have only this input coming from source, but the target is provided as like this. The target file should be like this. Okay. So it should have employee ID, first name, last name. So from my source, I'm getting employee ID, first name, last name. But also my target will need data from company name, city, and state. So if you see here, there is one more file that contains that information. So this is employee info. And if I see this particular file, so see here I have company name, mail, city. So my target needs company name, city. So we have both of them. And state is present in my database. So for city, the corresponding state is there here, right? For city, the corresponding state is there here. So I have to combine all this information. I have to coordinate all this data and need to send to the target, right? So I have to call an flat file profile. A flat file profile, I have to store that data, and database information have to be stored, and I have to get the required data from all these three, correct? So now what, how am I going to do that? So now say I have no data, and I'll take a disk connector. Say get, I'll say document cache disk connection. So give this path. So from here I'll give the file name as well. So this particular file. So this particular file, and operation doc cache disconnection operation. So I'll just say save and close. So this is now done. So now I'm getting this XML document, but I also have the data from the text file, correct? So let me normally give this text file. So I'll give this particular information in a message shape instead of taking from disk again. So I'll place a message shape here, and I'll place this information here. Okay. So I've got one source here. So there are three different sources, right? So I have one source here, one source coming from disk, and also I have information in database. So I'll make a database call as well. Database call, and database get, use the connection, and create the operation. So the name here is company info. Select star from company info. So I'll give that here. Company info database connector operation. So give here company info database profile. So import and select your connection. So select your table. Select all the fields. Finish. Right? So this database profile is created, and save and close. So save and close this. Right? We have configured all the three sources. Now I need to execute one after the other. Right? Once this is done, I need to retrieve this information, and from database I need to retrieve the information. So what am I going to do? I'll use a branch here. So let's use a branch. So let's say 4. So normally if I'm referring like this, can I make use of the data coming from here in branch 3? No, right? Because it will be used in branch 1 only. We can't refer to data in branch 1 and 2 in 3 again, because it gets overwritten. And also from branch 1 it will not be available in other branches. So what am I going to do here? I will put the data into a document cache. So we have two things here: add to cache, load from cache. Add to cache, which means you're sending the data to cache, you're putting some data into cache. And load from cache, which means you're pulling the data from the cache. So now I'll say add to cache. So before adding, I'll have to split the data. Okay, let's first add. I'll call this employee document cache. So I'll call this, and I'll say flat file. So you can select the different flat file profiles, different profile types here: XML, EDI, database, flat file, JSON, and none. Okay, so I will select the flat file profile here, select this, and I'll say select employee cleanse flat file profile, and give the index. So index is a grouping of related keys. Index are used to organize keys. To be valid, each document cache component must have at least one index, and each index must have at least one key, right? So now I'll give some unique reference here. So I'll say the index name as employee ID. So let's say okay here, and you can give the key by using a profile element or a document property key, right? So let's give profile element, and I'll say employee ID. Say save. Also, I can give one more profile element key. So by that, what I mean is an end condition. So if I give two keys like this, I'm specifying an end condition. So that means both the keys, I'll have to retrieve the data. Or I can also add one more index, and that will be acting like a or condition. Okay, so let me create one more, and let me say this as city. Okay, so based on city also, if I want to retrieve data, this time I'll say add document property key. So what this means is, instead of profile element taking as reference, you will take a reference of a property value. You will set this property value somewhere before the process execution, and you'll take that as reference and load the data. So when you're retrieving, if you give this reference value, all those records that are loaded will be pulled, right? So let me create a document property, dynamic document property. So I'll call this as load. Okay, ddp underscore load. I've given something like this, but remember I have to give the value before. So save and close this. So let's see if I don't give what happens, and then we'll adjust that. So I'll have to split the data. So say split documents. I'll now split the document. Flat file, split by line, retain first line as column headers. So this is done, right? So now let me first execute this and see how it is working. So you should receive an error because it says the document property is not defined, doesn't have a value. See here. So the path provided, the test execution completed with a path provided is not a directory. So okay, so I shouldn't provide this here. I have to take this in the operation, the file filter. Or I can say, so let me take that file here. Employee info.xml. Okay, so let's execute this now. See here, it says could not determine value for index key, tdp underscore load. So that have to be specified at the starting. I'll just give that here, and I'll say I'll take set properties here. ddp underscore load. So let me place the set properties here in the branch one itself, because it's a dynamic document property value, right? So it might be lost. So I'll place this next to message shape here, and split documents and then add to cache, right? So now let's execute and see this. So see here, it is executed and data is now added to document cache. Now we'll see if it is properly being retrieved or no. Okay. So let me, in branch 2, I will say load from cache. So this is to retrieve data from cache. So here I can select my document cache, select this, and cache index. So you can select either of them. So now I'll select city, and whatever you have given here, ddp underscore load value. So if I go here, so ddp underscore load value is yes, right? So that value have to be provided here. So what we are saying, if the value is yes, we are adding data to document cache with the reference saying that ddp underscore load value is yes. So when I give that value here as yes, I am retrieving data with which it has added with that particular reference, correct? So now let's say stop. So let me now execute this. So see now this is executed, and if I see the data here, see here, all the data that is there is coming up, all the three documents that are loaded, correct? So this is how load from cache works. So this is the data that we placed in message shape, so that we have in .txt file. So that is now there in employee document cache. So now we have got data from one source, and now we have the data in database as well, right? So now let's configure this branch, and I'll say add to cache, place this. So create a document cache. I'll say this company info. So that's about company info, right? Company info document cache. And profile type is database. Select your profile, company info database profile, and add index. So I'll also give the reference here. So let's see what's the reference we have here. Okay, we have city as reference, right? So there should be at least one field as reference when you are getting this data. So you have city in the incoming document. So I'll have the index as city. Okay, and I'll say add profile element. So add city and say save. Okay, now save and close. Right, so now remember you'll have to split the data. So if you see here, one thing you've observed or no, you will not have database profile type here in split documents, right? So that is also one asked interview question. Split documents, what all the profile types are available? There are only flat file, XML, EDI, and JSON. You will not have database in this. Okay. So now let's say cancel, and if I now go here to operation, I have something called batch count 1, and save and close this. So now add as batch count 1 and close this. So now what am I going to do? I'm getting the data from disk here, right? So this is the XML file, and I'll try to reference to these two caches and load the profile, load the target. Okay. So now what am I going to do? I'll use a map shape. So use a map shape. So let me create the map, and I'll name this map as document cache map. Doc cache map, right? So now create your profile. So that's the XML profile I'm getting, and say create new profile and import a profile. So we have the file already, right? Here we have document cache demo files and select employee info.xml. So when I say next and say finish, it has created the file for us. So we have three. I'll say delete element, and max occurs unbounded here. So employee XML profile. Save and close this. So see here we have got this information. And now I have to reference to the other profile here, the other cache, correct? So I'm getting the information from this particular text file. So I'll try to reference that here, okay? So for that, what am I going to do? If I go to map, if I click on here, you'll see something called add cache data. Add cache data. So I can go here and choose the document cache. So company info document cache is one and other one is employee document cache. So this is the text file one. So I'll select employee document cache and select the cache reference as employee ID, index as employee ID. Map this employee ID. So see here, this is the key that we are selecting from employee ID, that is from the XML file. So we are giving the reference. This is the employee ID from XML file and this is the employee ID cache index from the employee.txt file. Okay. So once you say that, you'll see here the document cache has been referenced, right? So now let me create this JSON profile. So that is the target, right? So let's create employee complete details JSON profile. So let's import this. This is a JSON. Say next. So now if I see here, this is my target profile. Okay. So now employee ID to employee ID, first name to first name, last name to last name, and company name to company name, city. So city to, okay, state. So state to state, and we'll have to reference with city here. So based on state, I'll get the reference of city. So city alone is not there and that is present here in this particular database profile. So for that reason, I will get the state. So if I go to document cache here, company info document cache, this is the company profile. So let me take the index as state instead of city. So because we have the common reference as state, let me take this. So say state, save, right? And now here, I'll now reference the document cache lookup. So see here, in functions we have something called lookup. So here we have document cache lookup. So you can also use this as a reference in the functions. Okay. So choose the document cache and select company info document cache and select cache index state. Whereas your output will be city, right? So you'll give reference for state and you'll get the output city. So this we have done, and state, I'll give this state here and I'll give city here. So this is done. So this way we have configured our map. Let's save and close this and configure the map here. Day 12 doc cache map. So before sending to map, I have to split the data, right? So let me split the data here, data process. Split documents, XML profile, select your profile. and on employee I will split. So this is now done, and I'll place a stop shape here. So let's execute and see how it is working. Right? So this is executing. And done. So now if we see the data, so we have got only last name, company name. So we have not got city and state. So let's debug on this. So if I see here in document cache map, I'm getting both city and state from city and state. So the reference have gone from this particular document cache. So if I go to this document cache, see here, okay, so seems like we have taken the wrong profile. See here, it's only employee ID, company name, mail, city, but here cache we have taken the wrong, referred the wrong profile. Okay, so what we'll do is let's create a new profile here. I'll call this employee flat file profile, and let's import. So say comma delimited, use column headers, import, and document cache, right? So this is from the text document. So let's create. Okay, so now it's looks good, right? So that's the reason we have not got that index as city. So now I'll place the reference employee underscore ID, and also there's one more index, right? So here I'll place this as city. So this is document property. So that is ddp underscore load, correct? So now it looks good. So it's ddp underscore load split, and we have sent it. And here as well we have to modify, right, company for document cache. So let's remove this and give the index as city. I'll say I'll take city here. So save and close. So now over here what I'll do is company name to company name. So company name to company name, city to city, and let me remove this document cache lookup here. Let me create one more. Say lookup, document cache lookup, select company info document cache and index city. So output is going to be state, correct? And then okay. So this city to city you'll give, and state to state you'll give here. So this is now done. Let's execute and see. So this is executing. So remember, when you change document cache, you'll have to again set the indexes from in load cache and also in add cache data. So now if I see the data here, so see now we have got this particular information. So we've got employee ID, first name, last name, company name, city, as well as state. So this way we can reference several sources and get the data and form a final request, right? So that's about the cache. So we use add to cache to add documents to a document cache so they can be reused in the process or the sub process. right? And load from cache is to get the documents, and so that can be used in the process or the sub processes, right? So the commonly occur errors can be like this in using document cache. You can say found more than one document in the document cache. So when you're sending duplicates, you'll usually get this kind of error, found more than one documents in the document cache. So that again you'll not get when you use in the map to the left hand side here. So when you use here, it will not occur. The error will not come as a cache data. But when you are using in the map functions as a document cache lookup, you have to make sure that there are no duplicates in it, right? And a few points to remember are like when the document cache component is used by the add to cache shape, all the values for all keys are loaded into the indexes. If any key values in the source documents are null or empty, the add to cache shape fails and you'll receive an error, right? And documents are indexed, which means they are organized by index and by key. The indexes and documents are stored in the document cache, right? When a document is added to a document cache, the entire document and all of the indexes for that document will be stored. Okay. And load from cache, when document from a document cache are loaded into a process, they replace the current document data and its document properties with that of the cache. So that's about the document cache. So we have seen about cleanse shape, find changes shape, process route shape, and document cache shape. So these all are very important concepts. So now let's get back to our slides. And now, so cleanse, the cleanse shape enables you to validate document field values and either repair or reject the document before further processing. The restrictions differ slightly between different types of profiles but include mandatory values, minimum and maximum length, date and numeric data type, and formatting. Right? And rejected documents are processed before clean documents. This is very important. This allows you to halt the entire process using a stop or exception shape and if a single document is rejected if required by our integration scenario. So with an example, we have seen this, right? And find changes. The find changes shape provides a way for a process to track changes made to a document and to send the document results down an add, update, and delete path. Right? If you're using a local atom and you're testing the find changes shape in a process, you need to reset the shape before deploying the process to production. To reset the find changes shape within a specific process, delete the process file from atom installation directory, work, cdc, component ID of the process. So we have seen this as well. And process route allows you to dynamically choose a subprocess to execute at runtime based upon some document value. Reduces configuration and maintenance efforts when building processes that must handle many different types of documents and different execution paths. So what makes process route different from process call? Ability to dynamically determine which subprocess to execute based on some runtime criteria, and ability to deploy the main and subprocesses independently. And processes that contain process route component cannot be published to process library, cannot be made available to managed account as part of an integration patch, and cannot be deployed as a unit via the API, right? And route by process route processing group. So process route, if it calls a pass-through process, sends the data and it is grouped by the route key. If not pass-through, individually process each document. And for processing group, it must call a pass-through process. Incoming documents are grouped by either partners or documents. If all trading partners uses the same standard structure, then the routes should be structured on documents. And if few documents that do not use standard format could call a different process, then they should be structured on partners. When the route is structured on partner, individual trading partners can be set to use their own process, and individual document standards and document types can be set to use other processes instead of default. Okay? And understanding the behavior of process route, documents will be routed to a single path only. Duplicates and wildcards are not allowed, so documents cannot match to multiple paths. Documents are first grouped together by route key and then each group is sent to respective subprocess. Return path is executed in sequence as defined. And document cache, an index is grouping of related keys. Indexes are used to organize keys. To be valid, each document cache component must have at least one index, and each index must have at least one key. Add to cache: when a document is added to a document cache, the entire document and all of the indexes for that document are stored. Whereas load from cache: when documents from document cache are loaded into process, they replace the current document data and the document properties with those from the cache, right? So that's the end of our day 12 session. If you have any questions, please let us know. Thank you.